All right, let's get right into it. We're talking about a moment when a totally normal, kind of boring press conference just explodes. It turns into this public blame game, and it's all centered on one single, very controversial draft pick. And it all started with one sentence that basically set an entire NFL organization on fire. And this is it. This is the quote that started it all. Just a stunning, completely out of the blue statement from Buffalo Bills owner Terry Pegula. I'll address the Keon situation. The coaching staff pushed to draft Keon. I mean, with one sentence, he just lit a match inside his own organization. You can just imagine the pin drop silence in that room when he said it. Wow. Okay, so let's paint the picture, right? The date is January 21st, 2026. The Bills are holding this press conference, and the whole reason for it is to talk about firing their head coach, Sean McDermott. So, it's already a pretty tense day. But absolutely nobody in that room expected what was about to happen next. So a reporter asks a question. It's directed at the general manager, Brandon Beane, and it's about the team's wide receivers. Totally standard stuff. But before Beane can even get a word out, the owner, Terry Pegula, literally steps in, interrupts him, and takes the microphone. Now, you don't see this, ever. Owners are supposed to be behind the scenes, right? They don't jump in front of the cameras to publicly point the finger and shift blame away from their own GM. It's just a wild move. So who is this player at the center of all this chaos? His name is Keon Coleman. He's a wide receiver who came into the league with these massive expectations, and now suddenly he's stuck right in the middle of a front office firestorm. So yeah, let's take a look at the massive gap between the hype and the reality. This one number really says it all, doesn't it? 33rd. He was the 33rd player picked in the entire draft. That's the very first pick of the second round. I mean, that is premium real estate in the NFL draft. It's a huge investment for the team. And when you pick a guy that high, the expectation is simple. You become a star, and you do it right away. And then there's this. This is the reality of his most recent season. Only 38 catches, a little over 400 yards. I mean, you look at this and it just tells the whole story, right? You've got that massive investment on one side and then this very, very modest production on the other. This gap right here, this is the root of all the frustration and all the drama. But honestly, the story gets even deeper than just what you see on the stat sheet. Coleman was actually disciplined by the team at one point. He was a healthy scratch, and that just means he was benched, even though he wasn't hurt, for 4 different games. And get this, he couldn't even break 50 receiving yards in a single game after week 1. The front office itself is saying the core issues are all about maturity. And all of this brings us right back to that insane press conference and the main event, really. This conflict. Who is actually responsible for this pick that, so far, has not worked out? Well, the owner and the general manager gave 2 very different answers, right there for the whole world to see. So first you have the owner, Terry Pegula, and he's basically saying, hey, this wasn't on my GM. He paints Brandon Beane as this team player who just went along with what his coaching staff wanted. They were the ones who pushed for Coleman. So he's trying to protect his guy, his executive, but in doing so, he basically throws the entire coaching staff who he just fired right under the bus. It's incredible. Then Brandon Beane finally gets the microphone back, and you can just feel him trying to do damage control. He starts with 3 very clear words. I made the pick. But what he says next is just as important. He's like, look, I listened to my coaches, but ultimately I would never make a pick for a player I didn't personally believe in. So he's saying, don't get it twisted. Okay, let's just look at this side by side because it really lays out the tension perfectly. On one side, Pegula says the coaching staff pushed. On the other, Beane says, I made the pick. Pegula claims Coleman wasn't his next choice, but then Beane comes back with, don't misunderstand that, which pretty much implies, hey, I still signed off on this, I saw the potential. You've got 2 powerful guys in this same organization sending 2 totally different messages out to the public. Just wild. So after all that drama, all the finger pointing, and, the disappointing season, the big question is, what now? Where do they go from here? What's the plan? Well, publicly at least, the message is all about support. Brandon Beane made it super clear that the organization is not just giving up on him, they're not cutting him loose, they are committing to the 22-year-old receiver, at least for now. And here's the actual plan that Beane laid out. Step 1, acknowledge the problem. He straight up confirms the issues are maturity things, and, to Coleman's credit, Beane says the player owns up to it. Okay, step 2, commit to fixing it. Beane says it's the organization's job to work with him and develop him. And step 3, they've got time. He has 2 years left on that rookie contract, which gives him a window to try and make this work. So the key takeaway here is there is a roadmap. They're not just hoping for the best. And that really leaves us with this one big question, right? In the NFL, what's supposed to be the ultimate team sport, where does the buck actually stop? Where does accountability for a bad draft pick truly lie? I mean, we just saw an owner blame his coaches, and we saw a GM take responsibility, while also kind of hinting that it wasn't really his first choice. It was this incredibly rare public peek behind the curtain, you know? It cracked that unified front that these teams work so hard to maintain. So when things go wrong in a sport that's all about collaboration, who's really to blame?